So now I would like to invite José Roque and Inácio to the chair so that we can have a quick discussion. We are a bit late, but yes, please. Inácio, you can join us there. I think it's easier for the discussion. I know that Márcio has a very specific question to Rafael, so I'll open for Márcio first.
Thank you, Ulisses. Well, congratulations to the excellent panel, to all the panelists. And I want to ask Rafael, in a project that we are working in CBPF now, we have an expansion of CBPF in the Federal University of Rio in the Technological Park. And we have been discussing with the innovation systems of Rio de Janeiro strategy for these innovations part of relationships of CBPF. And there are many people of FIRJAN, the Federation of Industries of States of Rio de Janeiro, which represents and support the industrial sector across the state of Rio. My question is, would the ILO, the industry office of the project, be interested in holding a similar event at those you organize in FINEP, together with FIRJAN? And if so, how do you think we can mobilize the state of Rio de Janeiro, considering that Rio de Janeiro does not have many high technology industries? And then when it does, they tend to be strongly concentrated in the oil and gas sector. Thank you.
Rafael?
May I? Okay. So thank you, Márcio, for your question and for your offer, right? Because I understood that there's an offer behind your question.
Yes.
So and yes, we can do something. We can talk. This is key, as I mentioned. So to bring the awareness for the industry, and CERN acquires and buys, let's say, high-end, sophisticated things, but also buy a lot of things, right? So, and I think it's worth having the discussion. And even though you identify as a not that, let's say, technological industry in Rio, I think it's worth doing that for sure. I think it's also important to say that let's say most of the suppliers for CERN are small and medium companies, right? So I think we have, let's say, when we talk about WEG and the magnets, we are talking in something very exceptional, right? So a huge company interested on supplying, let's say, very specific products, right? So in general, we have small and medium firms doing that, and so I think it's very good to have FIRJAN as a partner on bringing this awareness, and we can discuss, let's say, the best approach depending on the company's profile that you identify.
Thank you.
Good. So thank you very much, Rafael, for the answer. We have a bit of a limited time. So I would like to invite if someone from the audience has a question to make, and then I would like to put a question as well that the panelists could answer together very quickly. So does anyone want to put a specific question to the panelists or a particular one of them? If there is no questions, then my question to you guys is, I mean, you explained how the things are being organized in Brazil, how the community is organizing, how the industry is trying to be engaged. What role do you see for Latin American collaboration in what Brazil is doing? Or how Brazil, in this process, can impact the development of high energy physics in Latin America? Anyone?
Thank you for the question. With Salvatore, we doing a CLEF CERN agreement. I think this idea to collaborate with the people from another country, Latin American country, principle in the little country, it's very important because to enter in CERN alone, to participate in an experiment with 2,000, 3,000 persons alone is almost impossible. So the agreement that we and Salvatore, I and Salvatore think is just to increase the relationship between people from Latin America, not for Chile, because Chile is now is a big, or Mexico, big, but for example, Honduras, we have an agreement with Honduras. Melissa is now in Honduras working. By the way, this week it's almost become associate to CBPF to participate in LHCb. So the idea is to increase this collaboration with Chile and Mexico also, of course, but in another level. But I think the CLAF, the idea to this agreement is to take money from the European community, even Brazilian industry, to increase the relationship between these people, and it is very important for people on this small country, but also important for us to increase our participation in the big experiments.
From CNPM point of view, as I said, we're not a high energy physics center, but we are the unique center in Latin America that actually has an accelerator like Sirius and an infrastructure that allowed us to actually build this. So we are completely open to discuss. Marilda is here. She's taking care of now of our international collaborations. We are willing, of course, to discuss the role that CNPM could play in this arrangement. For example, when one comment, the people might not be happy, but for example, Ignacio showed, I don't know, almost 10 projects, 10 big projects. And we know this is difficult to actually have money for a significant participation. One thing is to have, and we should always have money for people to go there, get involved. But if you want, and this is from CNPM's perspective, if you want to build a big, let's say, part of the experiment, then I think one needs to choose among these 10, one or two. It's very difficult to find money to actually, from the instrumentation point of view, to build a big thing, not small little things, but a big thing. So that's a comment for common interaction.
Thank you. Rafael, Carlos, do you want to make any comments concerning this? Sorry.
If I could make a comment, a quick comment, it might involve Rafael Navarro. He might even have more information on that. One thing that would be, in my opinion, important for the Brazilian companies to be to get, let's say, more successful in getting, let's say, bids at CERN, is if they could show that they actually have the competence to build something. Because if I put myself on place of CERN, if a Brazilian company that never built anything for an accelerator participates, they might say, okay, how do I know? So this is something that FINEP, for example, could help by having a special kind of money to develop prototypes or kinds of projects that would show competence or develop capability. This could be done in partnership with universities, in partnership with us. It's a different kind of money. It's almost a pre-competitive kind of money for getting sort of the companies more like involved and know how actually what they're talking about. Okay, unless you want to sell paper clips and things like that.
Thank you. Rafael,
Ulysses,
Carlos.
yeah, so let me comment on that. I don't know if we have someone from FINEP at the audience, but of course I cannot talk for FINEP, but Ignacio, he was there as well, right, Ignacio? And they mentioned that they are studying, let's say, a potential call for, let's say, big science, right? So, and I think this is a topic that they are considering. So let's see, but potentially we have in a short term any news regarding that. I believe that Chile, as an associate member state, we can also combine efforts, right? Because there are some things that maybe we can do, let's say, industrially speaking, right? So maybe we can combine efforts. So more and more we are understanding the challenges to supply to CERN. Now it's a matter of understanding also the let's say the chain in Brazil, and if there's something that we can combine efforts with Chile, and I'm mentioning Chile because Chile will be allowed to sell to CERN, right? We can combine efforts. I think this is also a possibility. We know that Chile has some, let's say, potential raw materials and things that, as well as Brazil. So maybe you can combine efforts.
Rafael, thank you. Carlos, would you like to close with any comments on that question?
Yeah, from the perspective of government, I think that we of course we can support as governments the CLAF, that's the international organization, regional organization responsible. I think that has the capability to interact with several research communities in Latin America to make more activities with CERN. So this is something that the governments can provide more support. And even in bilateral, I would like to mention that last August, August 2024, the Ministry of Science Technology of Brazil signed a memorandum of understanding of science, technology, innovation cooperation with Chile. And one of the priority areas was the collaboration for participation in CERN activities. So the governments also can support bilaterally how we can work together to improve regional coordination and work together in CERN. And just one explanation that I'd like to have, that Brazil and the government also supports the maintenance and operation through CNPq, and the provision of funds we are paying every year. So just to mention that it's not only we are paying for the membership, but you are also funding every year. It's not that we are not putting money for the experiment itself. So this is just to make it clear that the government is providing the necessary funds. If they don't have to pay debts for previous governments or previous commitments that specific actors made, something that we have discussed internally, but the funds are being provided. Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. And thanks all the panelists for their expositions. The agenda is very dense, so we cannot take the discussion much longer, but thanks a lot. And I would like now to, well, applause. And now I would like to call our Chilean counterparts to the front. And with a little bit of a pressing time, I will invite them to do the same that we have heard from Brazil. So we already heard Ignacio Silva, who introduced the situation of the Chilean Association to CERN. And you can start coming. And now we are going to see how the things is being organized from the side of Chile. So I would like to thank very much the presence of representatives from the two principal institutions in Chile involved in the work with CERN and in the association with CERN from the side of the scientific community. So this is Rodrigo Pacheco, General Manager of CCTVAL in Valparaíso, Heik Jacobian, which is Deputy Director of CCTVAL, also in Valparaíso, and Jack Brady, who is Head of International Relations of SAFIR, of the Millennium Institute SAFIR. So I asked to them the same that I have asked to our Brazilian colleagues to explain in a brief introduction how the Chilean community is approaching the association to CERN, what are the challenges and successes perceived, and how it is organizing itself for the future. So I'd like to start with Jack from SAFIR. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ulises, for this invitation. Thank you to CLAF. This is a very nice instance for us. We're pleased to be here sharing our experience. And I have a few notes. I'll be very brief in order to give time for discussion and for questions. But it's important to make a little history first. Saphir was created in 2020. We are a 5 years young institution. We're very young, but that doesn't mean that everything started in 2020. Actually, Saphir was created and receiving funding from our funding agency, ANID, from that year in order to focus or to put together all 4 institutions that were working at CERN by themselves and to put them together in a joint effort. Saphir is formed by 4 Chilean universities. One is Universidad Técnica Federico Santa María, in which CCTVAL is placed, Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile, Universidad de La Serena, and Universidad Andrés Bello, which is our home, is the place in which our labs and our administratives are located. Okay. Regarding our funding, it's relatively small. We received from our funding agency about $900,000 US dollars per year for a period of 10 years, first 5 years, and there's actually a review for next 5 years on which Ignacio is very clear on that. Next week we will have that 5 years review, so we're just in the middle, and it's an important process for us in order to see how things are going and what are we projecting for next 5 years. Regarding research, I will not go into details, but on CERN, Saphir was created for research in high energy physics. Our main focus is CERN, but we're not doing only research at CERN. We participate at ATLAS experiment, NA64, SND, and some others that will be in the future. I will not go into details because Dr. Gilberto Zamora will have a presentation later this evening. But regarding international cooperation, I would say that for Saphir international cooperation, it's not important. It's fundamental, okay? We understand us as an international research center, so there's no way we could function without international cooperation. And thus, Latin American cooperation is more important even, okay? Anyway, for us, national cooperation, it's very important as well. We have been working with our national authorities. For us, the relation between our center and our colleagues of CCTVAL and the Ministry of Science and our funding agency and other institutions, just to mention a few, it's very, very important. And we have understand that in the last few years. And regarding the future, which is the important part, where just as Ignacio Silva mentioned, we're in the process of the discussion in our Congress for our membership as an associated member state at CERN. So we are in a very exciting process. It has been very quick. It has been just 2 years under this discussion, and everything has been moving very, very quick. So we are very, very happy. But I would like to highlight just 3 items that I think are important for the next few years or the next decade, actually, which I will pass the microphone to my colleagues later. But first of all, I would like to highlight the funding. Of course, funding is important for everyone. That's not a secret. It's never enough. I'm sure this is a common problem everywhere, not just in Chile. But regarding funding, not just the amount, I would say that there's also a different understanding of what long-term means. When we're talking about long-term funding in Chile for science, we're talking about 10 years. And 10 years in certain time is just nothing. 10 years is tomorrow. So there's always a lack of understanding or a different views from our perspective as research centers and from our authorities regarding this concept. So it's something we are expecting, and we are working with our authorities in order to make an improvement on this. Second, maybe Gilberto will go into further details later, but we have raised the issue of technicians training. We have a lack of technicians. We're not able to fulfill all our commitments, or we were willing to do so, but it's always very difficult to find the right people for the right job. You know better than me that at CERN, you have very specialized work, and technicians training, it's very expensive, it's very difficult, and it's long term. So this is an issue that we have been discussing with our authorities on this process to become an associated member state as well. And of course, it's a big item for us. And last but not least, I would say that governance, it's a very key factor for the next few years. Regarding governance, I would say that in the last years, of course, we have had communication with CCTVAL, but it haven't been enough. And we have understood that both institutions must work together in this process. We are a small country, not like Brazil or Mexico, which you mentioned in Latin America. Chile is a very small country with a small community, and we must work together. And we have been doing so with our authorities with the best will. And regarding governance, we have been working to advise our authorities in the best way to move forward with this process. This is why I would like to thank Salvatore, which has been very important in advising us, which we have been talking with authorities from other countries, comparable countries that have been passing through this same process in the last few years. For example, we have been talking with representatives at CERN from Croatia, from Latvia. Also, we have been speaking with Professor Mario Pimenta about the Portuguese experience, which has been very valuable for us. And what we have been doing with this information is that we have been providing information and our views for this governance to be done in the best way for our authorities. We don't want to be just a research center. We would like to be a key actor in this relation for our authorities and a key ally. And we have been working this with our colleagues of CCTVAL, and these are the three main aspects I wanted to highlight. I will stop here to pass the microphone, and obrigado.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm representing the CCTVAL, which is Scientific Technological Center of Valparaiso. Valparaiso is a coast city on the coast of the Chile, 2 hours driving from Santiago. Probably all of you know that. Thank you, Ulysses, for invitation. It's really great to have both countries in this moment, and we enter to this associated membership here together and thinking about future. And also thank you, Jack, for very nice introduction. I think globally, the introduction, this political introduction was, I like it very much. Thanks a lot. So you make my work easier a little bit, explaining what's going on in Chile. A little bit history. Everything I think in Chile grew pretty fast. I think it's faster than one would expect. I arrived in Chile in 2009 as a postdoc researcher, and at the time CCTVAL basically appeared. And I remember the time Claudio Deep, who is in the hall, he told me that I'm probably the first experimental particle physics postdoc in Chilean history. In 2 years, I was hired as a professor in the university, so I stayed there. But it was like starting in Santa Maria. And at the time, I met Will Brooks. Will Brooks I knew from many years, who is the director of CCTVAL, and Sergei Kuleshov, who is the director of SAFIR. And this was all community of particle experimental physics in Chile. There was a big theoretical community, but experimental just starting. Today, I think the particle physics experimental is not only in Santa Maria, it's also in UNAP, it's in Católica, Chile, it's in the north, in Tarapacá, it's in La Serena, it's in the south. So if you look at the map, it's long country, Chile, you go from north to south and you can find experimentalists everywhere. And this is only in 10, 15 years, which I think is impressive and very nice. And also in parallel, I think number of students and people who are getting more and more interested on that is growing, because I don't know how it was in 2000s. In Chile, young people are interested in science in general. And also there's a very powerful astronomy community. So interest exists to the space, but to the very small, I think basically this cooperation and these centers, which CCTVAL and SAFIR, which are also helping to go in this direction. So I think the growth was very, very quick and impressive. So CCTVAL exists since 2009. This year we got a renewal on another 10 years grant, a big grant, which Ignacio mentioned. It's $18 million. So this is a good news, which we got a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure SAFIR also will be renewed for another 5 years. So we stay in the business altogether. This is important. CCTVAL is placed, the main hub of the CCTVAL is Universidad Técnica Federico Santa Maria, which is it's a STEM university, science and engineering, basically. In some sense, it's the only one in Chile which is just focused on STEM. So the STEM university in Chile. But now also we have as an associated institution, La Serena University, which has a pretty big astronomy and astroparticle community related to the observatories, which are all over the north of the Chile. But also now in a couple of years, they just got 4 full-time professors in particle physics, all of them involved also in CERN. All of them also, they come out from Santa Maria. So basically it's a part of this expansion of particle physics through the country. And now we will start installing labs and creating more connection with the north of the Chile and also with observatories, because we don't see it only as a particle physics, we look at broader and further beyond of that also. So another thing which I would like to mention is the role of CCTVAL. So CCTVAL has 2 main goals, which is mandated by the government. First is to create new knowledge, transfer the knowledge also to society, but also impact on the Chilean industry and make the technology transfer. And I think there's an important switch, which is also happening during these last 10 years in the Chilean mentality, and not only in academic mentality, but also in business, in the industry. I think when I arrived in Chile, the experience of working together in the projects and also industry working on scientific projects didn't really exist in Chile. So that required some kind of change of mentality, change of the way of communication in both sides in order really to start to get interested in each other and finding a project in common. And today, I think in the last few years, we can mention several small success stories where it shows that this starting to work, which I hope will grow and will become something bigger. I would mention also importance of the success stories, which were mentioned here, because we need to have some projects which are somehow showcases to the world, to the industry inside country, inside America, Latin America, and all over the world, that really these projects, let's say, led to something interesting, not only in particle physics, but beyond that also. One of them would be the fabrication, for instance, in our case, in Seceteval, these STGC chambers, which I think Sebastian Tapia will talk about it more later today. For CERN, for the upgrade, but basically in some sense, Chile already built some equipment for CERN, and this helped also, I think, this whole process to enter as an associate member a lot. Another example I can bring about, it's a different laboratory, Jefferson Lab. I personally was related more to Jefferson Lab, so we did the experiment last year where we installed equipment, pretty sophisticated experimental target in Jefferson Lab. And this ended up that our center now is connected to the private companies in California which make medical instrumentation. So in this sense, it's brought this technology development and also this capacity to Chile to build some equipment for cancer care with US private companies. And thinking about the future and like also getting very enthusiastic and very motivated to be this meeting and this organization, I think it would be nice to have some kind of success story also between Chile and Brazil. So I'm impressed by Brazilian community in CERN. It's very big, it's like almost 200 according to Salvatore's presentation. I'm impressed by the laboratories and companies which I saw in your presentations. I would love to be there and see what you have really and more in person. There's a saying, yes, it's better once to see than 7 times to listen. And maybe we should think to do something together, even a small project, which would help to showcase our capabilities, our capability also to communicate, to work together with the world and see if it will motivate more also our countries in the industry and also the government. So this is my small introduction.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Heiko, also for this enthusiastic show of willingness and desire to collaborate. I think that's the aim of this meeting, and that's why the focus is Brazil and Chile, because it's a really special moment. It's interesting. One of the things we heard in the last panel was about the challenge of engaging the industry and actually winning bids. So maybe also in the cooperation in the industrial level, there is a chance for improvement, not only in the academic or level, but well, anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, for me, my role in CCTVAL as general manager is the role, is how we connect with the research to the national and international industry. So in our country, obviously, compared with Brazil, country is small. Our industry is small. And probably the problem is the communication between the center and the industry, and the funds also is a big problem. So I think it's a good opportunity for the future to improve our connection between in the different stage. And I see the CNP, I think is for us is a very good opportunity to close communication. And I think it's important to do this type of meeting for more frequency. So probably twice a year, I think is. So we are close also. So it's a good opportunity to interchange the different challenges in each country. Thank you.
So we also discovered that the Chileans are good partners in something else to save in the time that we lost before. And we might not even delay the signature so that Salvatore can relax a bit more. And so now let's open for questions. And I see Ignacio.
Talk a little about the technician.
Speak close to the microphone.
About the technician relation with the CERN. It's very important for us. Do you have you can talk a little bit more about this project?
Well, since we are just in the process, and the discussions have been driven by our Ministry of Science with CERN, I'm not able, not because I don't want to, because I don't know the details about this discussion, how it's been going on. But this has been a main issue. We both have been given to our authorities regarding the funding or the amount of money that Chile will pay to CERN, that it's an important focus for us about technicians. So I don't know if my answer might be a little disappointing, but again, I don't have further details to give. Hopefully soon we'll have them, and I will be more than happy to help you, but Salvatore is the man and he has more information.
Just some comments. So as part of the discussions that you have to see whether a country has value for CERN and vice versa, we have all this process where CERN directors and external experts in the country, we have a conversation. As part of this process, we were impressed to learn that Chilean technicians had been helping the installation of the upgrade of Atlas, which is down now. And some of them were even so good that they came to CERN from Chile to participate in the installation paid by Chile. At the end, they were hired in the United Kingdom because they couldn't find technicians which were so good. Then when we visited Chile and we discussed it with the authorities of various universities, we learned that Chile produces tens of thousands of technicians, mechanical, electromechanical, electronic every year that go and work in the mining industry. So the discussion that we are having now is whether we can find some ways for some of those persons to be selected at the highest possible level in these technical schools, of which there are 3, and we are inking a partnership with one of those 3, to be then sent to CERN, like the 5 engineers that we got now from CMPM who are working on the High Lumi and the FCC upgrade, whether we can find something similar where very high quality technicians come at CERN paid by Chile and start helping out. And then the idea is that once eventually a country becomes an associate member state, like is the case of Brazil and it's the case of Chile, there are jobs at CERN that can be filled by those nationals. And the jobs are not particle physicists and they're not engineers. We have a lot of jobs for technicians and for administrators, which invariably they all go to France. And then it creates, because it's the local market, so it's also to create additional opportunities. I have to say, everything we have seen so far of Brazilian technicians, Brazilian engineers, and Chilean technicians and Chilean engineers is spectacular. And this is another thing which led me to say before that this is a Latin American moment, because you see, between us, I know we are recorded, if you are a good mechanical technician in Europe right now, you are working in the weapons industry, because the only industry which is now growing in Europe is only one, because for reasons that are obvious, the continent is rearming. So there is also a matter of demand and offer in the mechanical and the electromechanical industries, which is very interesting. And again, it's something where the talent of Latin America is very, very interesting. I hope this clarifies a bit, not so detailed yet.
Yes, so I just want to pick up the fact that you were intervening, Salvatore. I'm not going to put the question that I put to the Brazilian colleagues because I think you automatically explained already how do you see that the Latin American cooperation can help you. But one question that came up, I mean, it's really looking what Rafael Navarro said about the challenges and the effort to try to win the bids from from the Brazilian side, and this is an essential part of being an associate member to CERN to get the industry to gain contracts. What are the opportunities for industrial cooperation between the two countries in these bids? I don't know if it's something that some of you can comment, or even Salvatore perhaps could comment. The question was half for you. No, I was wondering if what are the opportunities for cooperation at the industrial level to approach the CERN bids between countries like Brazil and Chile, because that could be very interesting.
Just normally, CERN has a mechanism for procurement that allows what we call the consortia of firms. So very often it does happen that a single company does not have all the technology to sell something to CERN. I make an example. The example is if you buy a magnet. So if you buy a magnet, you have the steel which goes in the magnet, you have the frame, and you have the cables which go in the magnet. So you can have a single company who comes and sells you a magnet. We just have out now a tender to buy 30 coils because the SPC is from the 70s. This is really archaeology to rebuild it. So you can imagine that just one company comes and say, oh, that's your magnet. And then the company goes on the back to buy the cables and the steel somewhere else. Or for reasons which we don't care about, suddenly you have 3 companies who come as a consortia to say, oh, we together want to sell you this, and that's the lead. So that's something which can be actually encouraged. And as soon as Chile becomes an associate member state of CERN, you will have an ILO. Rafael is one of the most active ILOs we have seen so far. So we really encourage you to discuss. Also, it's a matter of saving on shipping. Imagine if you have to buy something on the other side of the world, you ship it and you get it back, then you transform it and you send it back another time. I think there is actually a very huge potential for synergy between a mechanical industry and extractive industry that you can explore. The instruments are totally allowing this.
Thank you, Salvatore. I think this is very interesting to know.
No, very, very, very short again. So I think we did, so the Chile already did hardware for CERN and for other labs also, which is related directly with particle physics. But what happened up today is, and some projects were like more almost industrial, the manufacturing. For instance, we did these STGC chambers. We did also like 4,000 light guides for Jefferson Lab. So it was like 24 hours working, engineers with high precision light guides, polishing and everything. So there are several projects which industrial, but our centers did it. With industry involved, like the private, I think it didn't happen yet. So this is still something, some homework to do and start to involve the private. This is, I think, the hard part of the story. But still, universities have capacities, we have our grants, we buy good equipment, we have access to the best students in the country, we have access to best technicians in the country, we can involve them. But I think the interesting thing will start when we start to bring also the private industry to get them motivated, because what I expect that all this community which is interested on these bids will grow much more than just what we have in our centers in universities. It may happen, may not. But what happens today, because Ignacio, who gave his talk, and excellent talk, and I think he's very energetic and motivated. He entered to all these discussions since March this year. He learned from zero, I would say, and started to revolve all country and include also this Codelco thing, for instance, this copper without oxygen project, which might be the first project, which we expect Chile will become one of these providers of the copper to the CERN to long-term perspective, no? Because CERN also expects to upgrade one day in the accelerator and all this stuff, but also to create the capacities to machine this copper and just provide already components. This is also, we look for that. And also we should look also, and this is always, this discussion comes out when you talk to companies, the same Codelco. Okay, there's a market which is CERN, which is scientists, a little bigger probably than CERN, but we need the big market. So how we also connect to the other industrial sectors. So this is something, some homework which we should do still in Chile, really to convince Chilean business that the technology development in Chile is important, and this is one of the directions, like CERN, its opportunity. our minister, the ex-minister I sent, she understood that, because that's why she started to push this membership thing, and Ignacio also. So in government, they understand that. But I think we still need to involve more and more the private sector. This is fundamental.
And this is something in which CNPEN has developed a lot of capacity, so it can be a great synergy there.
The exchange of experience also, I think, yes.
Just to say we're fully open. You are already invited to visit us. I also would like to visit you eventually. And that's as I said, for Sirius, this was fundamental. It was very important to show to the governments that we had this engagement of Brazilian companies. And this was not easy. You need special mechanisms. For example, FAPESP at some point helped trying to do this special project to engage Brazilian companies. Unfortunately, bureaucracy took a little longer than expected. And then the model that we have, the management model, was fundamental to be able to do those kinds of contracts. For example, we didn't have any Brazilian company that you could simply put a bid to deliver something because they didn't have any expertise to actually build something, let's say, ready. So we had to develop the companies together. So it's not the same money that you buy something, that you develop something. So that's the money you need to generate. And eventually government, if it wants to have, is a long-term thing. I don't know if I'm made myself clear, but it's a different kind of money. One thing is to say, I want to buy 1,000 magnets, and here's the money. But if you have never developed one magnet, you're not going to be able to either be interested or win any bid. So you need to have money for doing with the company, let's say, few prototypes that eventually will acquire the quality that you can now participate in a bid for 1,000 magnets. But we can talk a lot. Yeah, you can visit.
So thank you very much, Roque, for the comments. And I guess that Michael Benedict, from the FCC study leader, has just joined us on Zoom, which means that it's a good time to thank the panelists from Chile.
Thank you very much.